The poor ego has a still harder time of it. It has to serve three harsh masters: the external world, the superego, and the ID. Sigmund Freud. Have you ever found yourself caught in a loop, replaying a tiny, insignificant mistake in your head, hours, or even days later? That one clumsy word in a conversation, that typo in an important email, that fleeting moment you felt you just weren't enough. It's a quiet internal courtroom where we are perpetually on trial, a uniquely human experience. But what if I told you that the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor in that courtroom are all the same entity? A ghost in your own machine, an invisible puppeteer pulling the strings of your guilt, your ambition, and your shame. Tonight, we're going to unmask this inner tyrant. We are going deep into the architecture of the mind to understand one of Freud's most profound concepts, the superego. And by the end of our time together, you won't just know what it is. You'll understand how to loosen its grip and reclaim the quiet freedom of your own mind. To truly grasp the nature of this inner tyrant, we first have to understand the kingdom it seeks to rule. Imagine your mind not as a single thing, but as a kingdom with three powerful forces, all vying for the throne. First, there's the ID. This is the raw, primal energy of the kingdom. It's pure instinct, desire, and the demand for immediate gratification. The ID is the screaming infant inside all of us that wants what it wants, enough, with no regard for consequences, reality, or morality. It's the deep well of our most basic drives: hunger, thirst, passion, aggression. It runs on what Freud called the pleasure principle. Then there's the ego. The ego is the pragmatic ruler, the king or queen who has to actually govern this chaotic kingdom. It operates on the reality principle. The ego understands that you can't just take what you want, whenever you want it. It has to navigate the real world, with its rules, its limits, and its other people. The ego's job is to find realistic, safe, and socially acceptable ways to satisfy the ID's demands. It's the part of you that says, okay, I hear you, you're hungry, but we can't just steal that apple. Let's find a way to buy it. And finally, we arrive at our subject for tonight, the superego. If the ego is the ruler, the superego is the kingdom's moral ghost, its chief inquisitor, its hanging judge. It is the voice of authority you've swallowed whole. It doesn't care about pleasure like the ID, or reality like the ego. The superego cares about one thing: perfection, the ideal. It's the embodiment of every should and should not you have ever absorbed from your parents, your teachers, your culture. It's the source of your conscience, the pride you feel when you meet its impossible standards, and the crushing guilt you feel when you inevitably fail. So where does this powerful, often tyrannical voice come from? We aren't born with it. It's built, piece by piece, throughout our childhood. Think back. Remember the sting of your father's disappointed look? The shift in your mother's voice when she was ashamed? The cold red ink of a teacher's pen? These external voices of authority, approval, and disapproval are slowly absorbed, internalized. Your mind creates an internal phantom of these figures to police your behavior, even when no one is watching. This process is a necessary part of becoming a person. It's how we build a conscience. The superego's original job is actually protective. It's trying to keep you safe, to help you fit in, to make sure you are loved and accepted by the tribe, to help you avoid punishment or exile. It's a survival guide. The problem isn't that it exists. The problem is when it forgets its place, when its volume becomes deafening and its rules become rigid. And this, right here, is the heart of our conversation tonight. For so many of us, the superego doesn't just remain a guide. It becomes a tyrant. It morphs from a helpful advisor into a cruel, relentless inner critic that is never, ever satisfied. It takes the reasonable standards of the world and twists them into impossible demands for godlike perfection. The guardian becomes a jailer, and it locks you inside a prison of your own making. Let's talk about the tyrant's weapons. Its primary weapon is guilt. Not the healthy guilt that signals you did a bad thing, but a toxic, corrosive shame that whispers, you made a bad thing. Healthy guilt motivates us to repair and change. The superego's guilt is designed to paralyze. It's that sinking, sick feeling in your gut, that relentless inner prosecutor dissecting your every flaw, making you feel fundamentally broken for the smallest human error. Have you ever felt like a fraud? Like at any moment, the world is going to discover you're not as smart or talented or capable as they think. That feeling has a name: imposter syndrome. And it is the superego's masterpiece. The tyrant whispers that your achievements are just luck, a clerical error that will soon be corrected. It creates a terrifying gap between your external success and your internal feeling of being a pretender. It doesn't matter how many accolades you receive. The tyrant is always there to tell you you're just playing dress up. Another of its favorite tools is perfectionism. The superego holds up a flawless, photoshopped image of an ideal self, the perfect student, partner, artist, parent, and declares that anything less is a total failure. This isn't the healthy, joyful drive for excellence. It's a rigid, brittle, unforgiving demand for the impossible. This kind of perfectionism doesn't lead to greatness. It leads to chronic anxiety, burnout, and a deep, paralyzing fear of even trying. And this brings us to a strange paradox. The perfectionist so often becomes the procrastinator. Why? Because if the only acceptable outcome is perfection, then starting anything is terrifying. That blank page, that new project, that difficult conversation, each is a minefield of potential failure. The superego whispers, if you can't be perfect, it's better to be nothing at all. And so, to avoid the tyrant's inevitable judgment, the ego chooses a seemingly safer path: avoidance. Suddenly, reorganizing your entire bookshelf becomes more urgent than writing that first sentence. The native tongue of the superego is the language of shoulds and musts. Just listen quietly to your own inner dialogue. How often do you hear it? I shouldn't be more successful by now. I shouldn't have known better. I must not fail. I shouldn't be happier. Each should is a tiny whip, a little sting from the inner tyrant, a constant reminder of the gap between your messy, human reality and its cold, sterile ideal. It's a low-grade hum of self-reproach that slowly drains your life of energy and joy. But this isn't just an internal monologue. The tyrant doesn't stay in your head. It leaks out. It profoundly shapes your external world, especially your relationships. If your inner tyrant constantly tells you you're unworthy, you might unconsciously seek out partners who confirm that belief. You might become a chronic people pleaser, abandoning your own needs to appease the projected judgment of others. You live in constant fear of abandonment because the tyrant has convinced you that love isn't given. It's guaranteed through perfect performance. Or it can manifest in the complete opposite way. The superego can project its harshness outward. A person with a savage inner critic might become intensely critical of others. They see the flaws they cannot tolerate in themselves mirrored in everyone around them. This is a desperate defense mechanism. By judging someone else, the ego gets a fleeting moment of relief from the superego's internal assault. It's a tragic cycle where inner pain gets converted into outer conflict. In the workplace, the inner tyrant is the secret engine of burnout. It's the voice demanding you stay late, take on more work than you can possibly handle, and never, ever say no. It's the gnawing fear that if you aren't constantly proving your worth through sheer exhaustion, you'll be exposed as an imposter. This isn't ambition. It's a frantic escape from the feeling of inadequacy. The promotions are never enough, because the tyrant just moves the goalpost. And for anyone who creates, The artists, the writers, the innovators. The superego is a special kind of poison. It is the ultimate critic that lives in your head before you've even made the first mark. It compares your vulnerable first draft to a finished masterpiece. It tells you your ideas are unoriginal, your skills are pathetic, and that you should just save yourself the embarrassment and give up. It builds a creative block out of the bricks of self-doubt and the mortar of anticipated shame. Now, after all this darkness, it would be easy to see the superego as the villain of our story. But here is the most important, the most hopeful turn in our entire exploration. The superego is not your enemy. It is a misguided guardian, a well-meaning dictator. Its original programming is protective. It wants to save you from pain, from rejection, from failure. The tragedy is that its methods are primitive, based on the black and white, terrified logic of a child. It uses a sledgehammer to perform surgery. The path to freedom, therefore, is not to declare war on your superego. To fight it is to meet it on its own terms of conflict and judgment, which only makes it stronger. The path to freedom is through understanding, negotiation, and integration. It's about becoming the benevolent ruler of your own mind. It's about teaching this old, rigid part of yourself a new way to be. It's about transforming your inner tyrant into a wise advisor and taking your rightful place on the throne of your own consciousness. So, how do we begin? How do we start this revolution of the self? The first, most powerful step is simple awareness. You cannot change what you do not see. Begin to listen to your inner monologue, not as gospel truth, but as a broadcast from a specific radio station. When that voice of criticism, guilt, or perfectionism starts up, just notice it. Label it. Say to yourself, "Ah, that's the superego talking," or "There's the inner critic again." AI, only. The moment you name it, you create separation. You are no longer the thought. You are the one witnessing the thought. This tiny gap of awareness is everything. It's the space where your freedom is born. In that space, you can begin to question the tyrant's orders. When it screams, "This must be perfect," you can calmly ask back, "Says who? Is perfection truly necessary here? Or is good enough actually better? Because it means I can finish and move on." You start to fact-check your inner critic. The second step is to actively cultivate the antidote to the superego's poison, self-compassion. For so long, we've been told to build self-esteem, which is often based on achievement and being better than others. The superego's favorite game. Self-compassion is radically different. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend who was struggling. It's not about letting yourself off the hook. It's about giving yourself the support you need to get back up and try again. When you make a mistake and the inner critic begins its tirade, practice this simple, 3-step self-compassion break. First, acknowledge the feeling. This is a moment of suffering. That's mindfulness. Second, recognize your shared humanity. Suffering is part of being human. I'm not alone in this feeling. This dissolves the toxic isolation the superego thrives on. Third, offer yourself kindness. May I be kind to myself. You can even place a hand over your heart, letting the physical warmth be a reminder of this inner care. Next, you must consciously rewrite the tyrant's laws. Remember all those shoulds. It's time to put them on trial. Take out a piece of paper and write down the top 5 I should statements that haunt you. I should be wealthier. I should be more disciplined. I should have my life figured out. Now for each one ask, where did this rule come from? Is it truly my value or one I inherited? Does following this rule genuinely make my life better, or does it just create stress? Then you replace the tyrannical should with a compassionate, flexible could or would like to. I should be wealthier because I would like to find balanced ways to improve my financial well-being. I should be more disciplined because I could explore small, kind habits that support my goal. This isn't just a word game. It's a seismic shift in your internal politics. It moves you from being a servant to a rigid command to the author of your own choices. It gives the power back to Dochida. Finally, we must learn to embrace imperfection. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called wabi-sabi, finding beauty in what is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. A ceramic bowl is considered more valuable because of the crack that tells its story, especially when that crack is repaired with gold. An art called kintsugi. This is the ultimate rebellion against the superego's sterile demands. To embrace your own cracks, your history, your so-called mistakes, is to see them not as flaws, but as the golden seams that make you uniquely, beautifully human. This is not a quick fix. It's the practice of a lifetime. There will be days when the tyrant's voice is loud, and days when it is a barely audible whisper. The goal isn't to silence it forever. The goal is integration. It's to build an inner world where your drive for excellence can coexist with self-compassion, where your desires are honored and channeled wisely, and where you, the conscious ego, are the one firmly and kindly in charge. It is the slow, beautiful work of turning an inner dictatorship into a democracy. So, we've journeyed deep into the mind tonight, from the primal howls of the ID to the impossible standards of our inner tyrant. We've seen how the superego, this ghost of authority, can become a jailer. But we've also found the keys to the cell: awareness, self-compassion, and the courage to rewrite our own rules. You hold the power to change the government of your own mind. If this deep dive into our inner world resonated with you, consider subscribing for more journeys into the architecture of the human experience. And in our next video, we'll explore the other side of this coin, the wild, untamed, and deeply misunderstood power of the ID, and how to harness its raw energy for good. I'll leave you with this to continue our conversation in the comments. What is one statement that your inner tyrant loves to use against you? And what could be a more compassionate, flexible alternative you might offer yourself, starting tonight?